Welcome back to the Rookie Numbers Podcast. I'm your host, Bryson Shank, and alongside me are your co-hosts, Nathan Wilt and Peter Schaefer. This is episode 9. Let's get to it. So, again, third episode in a row, we're without Trent Sunday. God only knows what he's doing today.
We don't know.
He's MIA.
Trent's MIA this week. He should be back next week, so we still miss that guy. Still the wearer of many hats.
He's showing up like the Sixers in Game 7.
Yeah.
He is not
Accurate
here.
comparison.
So this week we'll be talking NBA playoffs again. We'll be giving you guys our second round recap along with a preview of the conference finals. So let's get right into it. We'll start off with the Lakers-Warriors series. I'll give the floor to Peter to start this one. Lakers-Warriors.
I think we all know what's coming for me, right? I might not know ball like that, but I called this. I said this was going to happen.
Yeah.
In my hot take episode, a few episodes back, I said the Lakers were going to win 2 playoff series, and I got ripped on it for it, and even I wasn't that confident in it, but I said it. I said it would happen, and I lived up to it, and guess what? It happened. These guys doubted me, and hey, maybe they had a reason to. I won't deny it, but you know what? It came through. It happened. The Lakers took this in 6. They just showed up. You know, I didn't think it would be this dominant for the Lake Shot. I thought they were going to take it in 7. They took it in 6. That Corgi was onto something for the first few games, but hey,
He was
got
cooking.
it done. We got it done.
You did get it done all right. Lakers fan since day one, before Kobe. So I thought this was a pretty good series. I did post on the Instagram about how much coaching affected this series. Thought it was a great series. 6 games. I thought it would go to 7. Just Warriors could not get it done in the last 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, the Warriors seriously got to reconsider what they got going on because they maxed out this year, in my opinion. This was the highest potential they could achieve with the roster they had. Jordan Poole was a fraud. Kuminga got in the doghouse midway through the playoffs. Your young guys just weren't stepping up. Curry just looked like it was himself, and like some good shooters, but he was doing a lot. It was pretty much just all Curry all the time, and that can't be the case going forward.
Right, yeah, Jordan Poole is a big story in this series. Only 10 points per game, 34% from the field, 25% from 3. Really just terrible.
Yeah.
And it was very disappointing, especially after he broke out last year in the playoffs, in the second round when he broke out. So I don't know what the Warriors do from here. Draymond's a free agent this summer. It doesn't look like they're going to pay him, which, can you blame him? Not really. I think this might be the end of the Warriors dynasty.
It's tough to say about Draymond at this point because he's not strong offensively. We all know that.
No.
But he's good at defensively, and he's been declining a little bit over the past few years. And I'm not saying you got to pay him, but it's not a bad option to pay him because he's still good, and he's still really, really a good mentor for that team, and he still plays a big role in that team as far as how their mental aspect goes with things. And I think he helps with the team chemistry overall.
Yeah, I think Draymond's a net positive for your team. Now, if he goes punching your young players at the start of the season, I roll that one back. But he's not really warranted to get paid $20 million this year.
I wouldn't.
That's a steep price for him. I'm a little hesitant to say the dynasty's over because Bryson will never let me live this down. But when they drafted Wiseman, I said the dynasty was over and they won another ring. So I'm not saying it's done until Steph Curry hangs it up.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a bad option to pay Draymond. Maybe a 1 or 2 year, $20 million deal.
Yeah.
But, this is the beginning of the end, whether the dynasty's over or not. I don't see this team making it back to the finals.
Yeah.
With how the West is shaping out now, Kevin Durant on the Suns, Nikola Jokic playing like the best player in the world.
Yeah.
You can pay Draymond for another 2 years, but that's about it, I think.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know if Draymond is going to be able to play after 2 years.
Right.
He really probably won't warrant minutes after a while. Like, his body's already declining. He's going to need to bring some other element to the game as he gets older.
Yeah.
Right. So, on the Lakers side, I thought, they did especially a great job of just attacking Draymond.
Yeah.
He was decent in the series, I thought, but Anthony Davis still playing out of his mind when he's
Yeah.
healthy. LeBron's kind of taken a step back, but that's okay.
Yeah, he's supposed to. He's 102 years old at this point.
Yeah.
He's played in the league longer than I've been alive.
Right. So I think we'll move on to the next series, Nuggets at Suns. That one went to 6 as well. Denver came out of the series not what I had in the series. I had the Suns. But Nate, I'll give you the floor.
I'm licking my chops over here. This is something I take deep pride in myself, is predicting the downfall of Kevin Durant on a yearly basis. What I said came true. Depth and chemistry. I predicted the Nuggets to win in 6. They won in 6 in Phoenix. Embarrassing loss. Looked like Luka Doncic out there when they got eviscerated by him. The Suns were fraudulent. A lot of star power there, but if you're giving Josh Okogie 30 minutes a game, you're not going to beat the Suns. Or not the Suns, the Nuggets.
I was talking to Peter before we started here. I think the Suns are pretty screwed. So as we know, before the season, Robert Sarver was racist and had the urge to touch a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So, they bring in Matt Ishbia, who Jokic was seen pushing.
Good for
the
him.
series. Good for him. But it seems as though Ishbia's kind of taken over the team. It came out he was the one that fired Monty Williams after the series, which, sure, some of it's on Monty Williams, but he was Coach of the Year last year.
Yeah.
I don't think this series warranted a firing.
Out of all of the firings that have happened, I think Monty's was the least valid. He's had some bad playoff losses, but he's the reason the Suns are in contending form right now. He's what got them to be a great regular season team, and they just haven't been able to get over the hump.
And it's not his fault that Booker and Durant shot 30% from the field in Game 6. There is flaws on him for sure, but I don't think this loss was on him. But back to my point, Ishbia was also the one that made the Kevin Durant trade.
Yeah.
He has been in control of this team, and we've historically seen that owners having a sort of a GM role is never good for an organization. It never brings success.
Not really.
Especially when, GM James Jones, LeBron James' career savior, has done a pretty good job, I thought, up until this point. So it's going to be very difficult for Phoenix to kind of improve off of this because, you give up your picks, you give up Bridges and Cam Johnson in the trade. There's not much you can do.
Yeah.
And, we've seen reports come out, CP3 and Ayton are rumored in a bunch of trades. I don't know how much you're getting from either of them. The best scenario is you get maybe a Miles Turner for DeAndre Ayton, and for Chris Paul, just somebody who can fill that point guard role. But I think this is a troubling loss for the Suns because I don't know where they go from here.
I don't think it's time to close the book on the Suns. I think if you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, there's still a chance to get somewhere.
Right.
And I think there's at least one team out there that sees something in Ayton and will give you a package for him. And me personally, I'd keep Chris Paul. Just the leadership factor, the way he can kind of gel your team together.
Yeah.
Even if he's, kind of a liability, I think he's needed on the
for
roster.
his trade value at this point. There's not much better you're going to get.
No, not really.
I think keeping Paul would be the smart move.
Yeah, it's just I think they can just kind of lick their wounds and hope that they have a really stellar offseason. And I think there's a chance that they could come back. I don't think it's time we close the book on them.
No, absolutely not. Like you mentioned, whenever you have Durant and Booker on the same team, possibilities are endless. Booker looked like the best player on this team this entire playoff series. When you have Kevin Durant as your second option on offense, that's pretty good. So they're still in it. They're still contenders to me, but I don't know what they do from here.
Yeah, I think you guys are saying what a lot of people are thinking. Obviously, there's not many different ways to look at this situation. I think they definitely gave up on Monty Williams too quickly. You go from winning Coach of the Year to getting getting fired the next year.
Absolutely.
That's just, I don't know. That's tough to comprehend. Obviously changing the ownership and him kind of taking over this franchise. That's not. I don't like it. I think they definitely cut Monty Williams loose too quickly. I think honestly, some of it's on him, but like you guys were saying, some of it's on the play as well. And yeah, I mean, I think if you give Monty Williams a full offseason of kind of, well, never mind because he's fired. But if you were to let him stay and you had him and you let him have a full offseason of planning on how to get this team chemistry together, I think the Suns probably would have gotten over that hill. I think they would have been fine in the playoffs, but they let him lose too soon, and that's
and I'm a big advocate of any team right now firing their coach if there's any sort of trouble, because the coaching market is just ridiculous right now. You have Nick Nurse, you now have Monty Williams, Mike Budenholzer, now Doc Rivers as well, if you want to consider him a good coach.
Yeah.
But for the Suns, you're not getting any better. Like, even with this great market, you hire Nick Nurse, maybe. How much does that improve your team? I don't think much at all.
Not really. It's just, it's a little confusing, but, it's just what they did.
Right. I want to talk about the Nuggets for a second. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. I thought this series, absolutely gives everyone the warrant to talk about him as being the best player in the world right now. He was incredible. Probably should have won MVP as well.
Probably. The impact he has on the floor, on the offensive end, is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a level we haven't seen since, what was that, 2015, 2016, when Curry won back-to-back?
Yep.
That's what this reminds me of, is that as soon as he touches the ball, the entire defense has to immediately adjust hundreds of times. Like, he catches it, and he looks. The defense has to be right in every passing lane. Yep. It's just, he's ridiculous.
And even on the defensive end, there's a narrative that he's such a bad defender and all that. Yeah. He's not. He's still a net positive on defense.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like elite. He's not like a DPOY candidate, but he's not a liability. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at him, you could tell he's like not an elite defender. He's a big old white dude who struggles to get up and down the floor really quickly. But he's not a bad defender. Yeah,
and there were talks before this series, looking back when these two teams played in Phoenix's route to the finals, CP3 torched Jokic, and Steph Curry did last year in the pick and roll. And they didn't do that this year. No. And it wasn't, that wasn't on the Suns. I thought it was on Mike Malone and Jokic just both stepping up, adjusting to that. I think they did a very good job of that. And they came out of the series in 6 games.
Yeah, so. And you mentioned Mike Malone. I think Mike Malone should be in the circles now that he is one of the best coaches in this league.
Absolutely.
The job he's done with the Nuggets this year, I've been very impressed with.
Yeah, because you look at the roster, it's not like, on paper, it's not like this team is anything amazing.
No, it's Jokic and then a couple other quality guys and some good role players.
Yeah, there's a number of teams in this playoffs that have a better roster on paper. I'd say a majority of teams on paper have a better roster, but you brought up chemistry and depth, and then just great coaching from Mike Malone.
Yeah,
that's what gets it done.
That's what you need in the playoffs. The team is built for the playoffs.
Right. Now moving on to teams that are not built for the playoffs, we'll talk about the Sixers and the Celtics here. I thought this was a fraudulent 7-game series.
Yes.
It wasn't. It wasn't a real 7.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it went to 7 games.
The Celtics kind of dominated this series,
yes.
Except for 2 James Harden 40-point games. I thought Boston whooped on Philly this whole series.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I know I play kind of the Bulls fan dynamic on this podcast, but I've definitely watched more Sixers games this year. I've been to Sixers games this year, and I could tell you from the start that this team was not a finals team.
Yeah.
They expected. I expected the collapse. I had Boston going to the finals and winning it. I had them in 6. I'm shocked that they didn't beat them in 6.
Yep.
The way the team looked.
Yeah.
Just the team had no energy. Doc Rivers couldn't adjust to Jason Tatum to save his life. The only reason they were in that series is because Jason Tatum, I don't know what he did, but he went 0 for 25. I don't know if he, desecrated an Indian burial ground or something. But, as soon as they put Robert Williams and Al Horford out there, the Sixers couldn't score. They couldn't. Right. They could not score.
Right.
And you have to be able to adjust to that.
Yeah, when you have offensive talent like, Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, and Joel Embiid starting, scoring should not be your issue.
No, it
Yeah,
should.
if you're gonna let up 120 points a game, you got to be able to score 125. But there's no reason you should be scoring under 100 multiple times this series. That's just unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. When you have the MVP, a former
Supposedly.
he won it.
He did.
He won it. He's led the league in scoring per game 2 seasons in a row.
Mhm.
You have a former MVP and a guy who's led the league in scoring before.
Yeah.
You have one of the most promising young stars in the game in Tyrese Maxey. You've got a do-it-all utility guy in Tobias Harris.
Mhm.
And you've got some decent role players off the bench that can get you a few buckets. You can't put up less than 100 points.
Right.
Like, defense is, the Sixers' go-to thing, apparently. Like, that's what they were built on. That's what Doc Rivers builds his team on. Now, Doc Rivers sucks, so he can't really build anything. But that's what they were built on. And their defense, to give credit to them, to give credit to Doc and the Sixers, their defense was not bad.
Yeah.
Their defense was pretty good. But you can't sacrifice everything on offense just to be okay on defense.
Right.
And just Doc Rivers, I don't think could manage a McDonald's right now.
Well, he's not managing anything right now.
I hope he retires.
As of this morning, he was fired by the Sixers.
Yeah. And I think this season is honestly a step forward for the Sixers because Doc Rivers will no longer be involved with day-to-day games, anything. Doc Rivers not being a part of this organization immediately bumps their finals odds for me up at least 100 to 200 points.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the Sixers fired him this morning. They've had a lot of guys on their radar already.
Yeah.
Some good, some bad. You have Sam Cassell, Mike Budenholzer, Nick Nurse, Monty Williams, and then you have Frank Vogel and Mike D'Antoni. Nate, I want to ask you, who do you think the Sixers should hire as their next head coach?
If we were going off ideal hire, I'd say Monty Williams, but I don't see that happening just because it's the Sixers and they never make smart hires. I would imagine, I think the most accurate, most reasonable best hire they could do is Sam Cassell.
I'm kind of with you on that. I think my ideal hire would be Nick Nurse, but I think Sam Cassell is a very realistic option, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
He's been a great assistant over the past few years. I think he'd be great for the Sixers.
Yeah,
I agree with you guys. Right, I think both of those would be awesome hires for the Sixers. But what exactly does this mean for the Sixers? Because you got to think about it. They let go of their old coach. They brought in Doc Rivers. They haven't made it out of the second round in 5-6 years. It's ridiculous. You have a roster like that.
It's been over 20 years now.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, it's been 20 years.
Okay. So, I mean, you can't. It's so hard for them to get the job done. It's like, what does this even mean for them? Because you hire a new coach, but you got to remember this has to come with some sort of rebuild, not a complete blow up. I think you build a team around Maxey and Embiid, but Harden has to get out, Tobias has to get out. I mean, you need to do some sort of change here because you can't keep letting your diehard fans down every single year.
Yeah, I do agree. I think there should be a complete retool of the roster. It's going to be very difficult, though. James Harden has a player option this summer, which it's looking very unlikely that he accepts.
Yeah.
It's looking to me like he's going to go to Houston. There were reports earlier that Phoenix is on his radar as well, which wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that'd
James
be great.
Harden to Phoenix.
That would be the most fraudulent team of all time.
That probably would.
But if James Harden opts out of it, what do you get back for him? You get a sign and trade with Phoenix, maybe Chris Paul.
Yeah. No. As a Sixers fan, I'm optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say I'm optimistic. Ideally, my rebuild, I think Tobias Harris, in my opinion, needs to stay. Tobias Harris' stats don't jump off the page.
I actually 100% agree with you.
And, it's not like, if you just look at it on a blank canvas, you just look at the numbers, it's not like his impact is outstanding. But what he does for the team, this is just the eye test. I have no stats to back this up. I have nothing on paper. It's just on a daily basis when we need a tough stop Tobias Harris is switching on to him.
Yeah, it's
forward.
really unfortunate that Tobias Harris is getting paid as much as he is.
Yeah.
Because if he was getting paid, $20 million a year, he'd be, maybe a little less than $20 million, be known as one of the best value contracts.
Yeah.
Because he's been amazing for the Sixers, exactly what they need over the past few seasons. Whether he be the second option when Ben Simmons left, or the third option, or the fourth option, he's stepped up.
Yeah, he's been like water. He's just filled into any crack they've needed him to be in. So ideally, I think they re-sign him for another 2 or 3 years and restructure that contract. Get rid of the heavy cap this year and more balance that out towards the end, like through his contract.
Right.
Somewhere in the $20 to $25 million range.
Yeah.
Throwing a few player ops out there. And I think you have to keep Toby, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw PJ Tucker's contract to deal. That's about $10 million there. And in a James Harden sign and trade, I don't know what happens. There have been reports for some odd reason that Jalen Green could be available from the Rockets. I don't know what the Sixers would do with him. I don't know why the Rockets would give him up. Doesn't make sense for anybody.
Yeah.
But there's hope for sure. It's just going to be pretty difficult for the Sixers to navigate this.
Forgive me, because I don't know the free agents upcoming and what the scene looks like, but I'm of the opinion that we should just let James Harden walk. Just let James Harden go. You'll have all that. You'll have almost a max contract of money. You let some of your other expiring deals go. You trade maybe like Daniel House or something, some of those some of those terrible contracts. Right. And you've got about $40 million, $45 million to play with. And I think you could probably sign a few low-key guys, or one, if you want to bring another second star like James Harden to the team, you could. But
I don't think you need to do. I think looking at the Nuggets, you just build a good team. That's what
I'm thinking. Because Embiid, I think we've seen now that traditional back-to-the-basket centers, because Jokic is not a traditional back-to-the-back center, can't really get it done in the playoffs. So I think you just kind of need to embrace that and just build a team of shooters and talent and depth around Embiid. Just have him go to work, have him and Maxey do some two-man game stuff, and just supply a team that fits perfectly around those two. I don't think we need to go and bring in another all-star MVP caliber player. I think we can just let Embiid go, let Tyrese Maxey develop, and just put a great group of guys and role players around him.
Yeah. So I think moving on, we'll head over to the Heat-Knicks series. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch too much of the series. My focus was on the other three. I had the Knicks winning this one. The Heat beat them in 6. They're shocking everybody right now.
I mean, we had said last podcast episode who we thought were going to win. I thought the Heat were going to win. I had no reason for it. Just thought Jimmy Butler has the edge. I'm going to be honest. This was the only series where I did not watch a single game. This entire playoffs, this is the only series where I did not watch a single game of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about it. I just wasn't interested by this. Like, I would turn it on for a few minutes. I would get bored watching it, and I'd turn it off. Yeah. So I don't really have any notes for this, but good for Miami. I'm happy for Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Spoelstra's probably, at this point, the best coach in the league.
I'd say so.
And I'm happy for that Heat culture.
Yeah, I mean, this series, from what I saw, it just all came down to the Heat defense. Completely just shut down New York, which they did versus Milwaukee, too.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting seeing how it carries over into Boston because, the Heat lack the offensive game that Boston can have on a night-to-night. They're still very spotty. But it'll be interesting to see how this Heat defense holds up versus Boston. And I think because we don't have too much to talk about for the Heat-Knicks series, we'll just move on to Heat-Boston. I want to hear your guys' conference finals predictions. Peter, we'll start with you.
This is, honestly, it's going to be a better series than what I think people are going to think it's going to be. Miami, very, very well-coached team. When you have a very well-coached team, it's going to do very good things for you in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler, he heats up in the playoffs. He's there. He's a backbone. He's great. This Celtics team, though, honestly, they shouldn't have struggled the way they did against Philly. But I think they're going to change that. I think they're going to get by in 6 against the Heat. I think the Heat are going to manage to take 2 games from them, but I see very, very little reason why the Celtics are going to lose this series.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I have Boston in 5 to 6 games.
Yeah.
I have Boston in 5. That worries me, though, because Boston, there are some games where they just disappeared against the Sixers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm not, positive, but I'm going to go Boston in 5. Gentleman sweep. I'm going to take the overwhelming talent versus kind of the Cinderella story here. And I think Goliath crushes David on this one.
Yeah, and I've gotten a lot of hate for hating on the Heat this postseason. You know, I had Milwaukee winning, I had the Knicks winning, fading Miami again. Hopefully, it doesn't come back to bite me. But I think we're on agreement with Boston in 5 to 6 games here.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Nuggets-Lakers series, Peter, let me hear your prediction.
It's going to be a great series.
Yep.
It's going to be an awesome series. I'm so excited to see this series.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go to 7 games. It's tough for me to decide a winner, but it's really, really hard to bet against LeBron. I got the Lakers in 7.
All right.
Honestly, I'm going to stick with it. Originally, I had the Lakers. I said they were going to win 2 playoff series. I'm making it 3. Honestly, the Lakers, they look really good right now. Team chemistry is really, really solid. They've been a great team, arguably the hottest team since the trade deadline there.
Yeah,
I
haven't
think
lost a home game.
Yeah, I honestly think it's going to be Lakers in 7 because of how hard it is for me to pick against LeBron.
Nate?
Now, if all of our audio and video listeners will remember, my finals prediction from when we started this, at the start of the playoffs, and to this day, was Boston beating the Nuggets in 6.
He's not lying.
The Nuggets, I'm not backing out now. Going to be a very interesting series. Going to be very fun. I love to see what they're going to do to Jokic. I want to see how they guard Braun with KCP and Bruce Brown. But I'm on that Rocky Mountain high. Give me the Nuggets in 7.
I'll tell you what, I'm really struggling still to pick a winner in this series. It's going to go to 7 games. I think I'm also going to be on that Rocky Mountain high.
Yeah.
I got Nuggets in 7, but this should be a fantastic series for sure.
I'm going to be very invested into this one.
Right.
Me too.
So I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to follow us wherever you're listening and follow our Instagram and TikTok at Prime Hoops. That's Prime Hoops with a Z. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Thank you guys for watching.